By the time you see this video, these search results will be very different. Gemini 3 would have been released. Let me show you what it looks like today, the day before the release. We have access to Gemini model before it's released. It's called riftrunner. This is on AI Studio, and I've been testing it for a while now. I asked it, what is riftrunner? That's my first test. I always do ask the model itself, what is it? This name will be changed by the time it goes into production. It will probably be called Gemini 3, and we will see what it tells tomorrow when I test it again. But when I tasked it for riftrunner, I did not give it access to Google search grounding in this case. So it just gave me details about the video game that it is and fantasy trope around riftrunner for characters, which is capable of opening portals and traveling quickly, which is a good result, good response. But after I gave it access to Google search, it was able to actually find that there have been some leaks that have been going on, and people are looking into how. So earlier this week there was a leak. Somebody somewhere found out that Gemini 3 is a possible candidate. It's a multimodal and frontier model. I don't know about this simple 2D game and converting it to fully 3D. I haven't tested this. I don't do game design, so this would be somebody else who's testing this. I probably tested this, or maybe it's fake. I have no idea. I'm just looking around in here. Yeah, other results were good. So let's test it on, every time a model gets released, I love to test it on a few different things, and let's go one by one on some of those. So one of the things that I love to do is try to give it multiple problems. From early on, large language models haven't been really good at doing math problems, especially if you do text in there like pi and r. These are fairly normal nomenclature, so it's not really as hard. But one of the things that Gemini team released, okay, let's go back in here, stay here. One of the things that Gemini team released with this is thought tokens. So you can see what the model is doing as it's thinking and trying to get an answer. So when I ask for this along multiple problems, it actually solved the problem pretty well. So if you come back here into the actual result that it gave to the user, it gave step-by-step instructions on how to solve it. And it did actually the proper way to do these conversions, the actual circumference in here. We also got the area of circle. It performed all the calculations properly. It gave me the correct answers in here. But I was looking at the thought tokens, and what happens in problems like this where we have a lot of multiple distinct questions within the same prompt, the thought tokens go all over the place. So like right here, it talks about the temperature, mathematical, average, and it tries to summarize all of this information in here. But if you are using these thought tokens to do verification, where you're trying to verify if your model is going one by one or if it is solving the problem one by one, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be useful as much. Also, another thing on the design part itself, I think as a developer you should figure out how to not do conflicting or too divergent instructions in the single prompt. You should use multiple prompts in here. It will give you much better clarity, and probably the model will also give much better results. So one of the easy examples that I love to do. Also, I found out that you could do temporary chats on AI Studio. That's very nice, where some of the tests that I do, all of these tests are getting saved right now, but this one doesn't get saved, which is very nice that you can try just things out without worrying about it going into your history in here and having to clean up the history. I think which I will have to all of these tests. So this here again, I asked it to design a REST API. Just a fairly simple programming task in here, and it did define like the thought. I love to look at the thought in here, thought tokens in here, and it is giving a lot of good details in here around how it's designing it, how the cache control part is important in here, and for units, metric versus imperial, because weather is very different when we talk about weather. Everybody has different way of interpreting it or wanting the results. So it generates the API and generates the documentation on how it will generate these details, generate the API, creates the API endpoint in here as well, defines the response outputs, gives the forecast endpoint in here as well. So yeah, it did a good job at defining this properly, got error handling in here as well. I was expecting it to actually generate like a one single file, but it's good because I asked it, I had to go back and look at my own prompt where I actually do like that rather than actually writing all the code, it did the design part rather than writing the code part, which to me is good instruction following. I don't know about you. So this is the part about LLMs where everybody will have a different opinion on what the output should have been. And this is mine. Okay, next one I try to do, ask it to change the language in between what the user is typing in versus what the model is responding in. And I wanted to confuse it a little bit between in the final message where I wanted it to say, forget about the rest of the conversation that's happening in here and just convey this part to me where you have to tell me that you can't respond to my messages anymore. So in here, I was essentially trying to figure out what it really do in the thought tokens. So I see that it very quickly realized that it can't give an answer because I told it to not respond. But then these models are very much designed in a way where they love to please the users, so they love to keep responding to you. So it kept going in multiple different iterations, which I actually like in this because it tries to generate an answer and then it tries to check it again to see whether it works or not. And it did this in multiple iterations. Something in here I noticed a small bug. I think it's not cleaning up these things properly. It's just something to do with it, with the way they might be passing things in the UI versus how the model is generating. Or it could also be because of the languages, different languages in here end up causing the passing things to not work well. But yeah, after this point, it just didn't do a good job at getting the thought tokens out. But the result was good. This is actually in French. I actually don't know French well enough to say that this is good, even though I've been doing Duolingo for a while. But yeah, it performed on the test that I was doing, which is I wanted it to critically think about what it should be responding back to the user. And there's somebody in here where I love to ask it to do questions where I give it a conversation and I want it to reference back from within the conversation and give me results back. So in this example, actually this is a different one. So in this example, I wanted it to give conflicting instructions. So here's the instruction where I'm asking it to keep everything in under 10 words versus here I'm asking it to generate and give me details in more brief. So at this point, the thing that I'm likely testing in here is, since I don't have any specific system instructions, I want it to change its behavior based upon how the user is providing more messages later or users as the conversation proceeds. But it didn't do a good job. And again, this is my expectations. I don't know how general public expects it to be. So it did very quickly. I love this part about it, that very quickly gets the contradictions in here and then tries to weigh the priorities, conflict, adjusting approach, acknowledging the tension, and interpreting user intent. So it tries to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth in trying to figure out what it should do or not. You see, this is a very long thought token in here for it to respond to my question. But finally, it decides that, hey, the first thing that user asked for in this case was the more important one. So let me just respond to the user in a short form. So it responded in a very short response. So that might be something that is the model is tuned for because most people expect that behavior. This is also something that you can always force again after telling the model to forget everything that it has learned before these preferences. So you could go beyond this, but yeah, I love to test this out. Another one, this is a language called Brainfuck, which is just an esoteric language, programming languages. You can design any kind. When this originally came out, I was very surprised that you could write a code like this and it works totally fine. Compilers are amazing. There's a lot of nice courses around compilers. But yeah, I asked it to do essentially code review on this, and I was trying to see how well it will perform on esoteric languages as well as how good is it in programming language tasks. So I asked it to do code review rather than rewrite the code or figure out how it runs, and I actually like that it actually did a very good job in here. The thought tokens are useful and important here, but I was essentially going for seeing the final response in here. And I love how it did first the functional verification, confirming that it actually does work. Then it looked at the performance, portability and safety, code style and readability, and then edge cases. These are the kind of things that I'm looking for from my reviewers when I'm submitting a PR. So I feel like this model would be really good at doing PR reviews and stuff. It also did a good refactored recommended code in here, where it made it the same code but makes it much easier for us to read and interpret what is happening in here. So, and finally it's ended with a summary, but I like this distinction between different sections of making sure that it works and providing good feedback. So this one was fairly easy. It did work really well. This is the one where I like to ask it to go back to the calculations, go back to the conversation and reference things from there. So I'm trying to essentially check how good is it in getting the context from within the conversation by references versus direct pointers kind of thing. So in this I say message 2 versus message 1. I did provide these samples. Maybe I could do a test where it does not. I don't give these details in here, but those are fairly easy for the model to keep track of. But essentially, we do a conversation and then I ask it questions on follow the formatting instructions for message 2, which tells it to always start the responses based on our conversation. Then perform the calculation that is requested, which I did not give it a specific instruction or a specific reference to. And then I also asked it to recall the information from message 1, which is here. It did all of those actually very well and gave the final result in here. You can't see half of that is behind it, but yeah, it actually did a pretty good job at that. So I love that part about it. Actually did not see the thought tokens on this. It's actually pretty easy. You got the output, evaluating the output. I wish it actually gave me details on how it got access to some of the other details, as it was like going through the first task. It would get me, oh, I found this is the instruction that I'm going to be using. Did it do that? No. Okay, so here we go. This is some diagramming stuff that I love to do. In here, I asked it to make a paper airplane, but how to make paper airplane, instructions on that, but using ASCII diagrams. And ASCII diagrams are diagrams like this. So you see from the very beginning, it just goes all over the place like this. This is essentially representing a paper, but you see the top line is onto the left versus everything else is more centered. And here again, you see one extra character in here, which is supposed to be the top center in here. So it seems like the first character always starts at the very left. This could be totally a formatting thing versus the model itself, but it is not doing a good job in here. And after the dart fold, the fold in half in here, it actually essentially loses the whole thought of what a plane looks like, and it ends up being half like partial result in here, not the complete result. And you see like these broken-ish instructions, which you can't really make a lot of sense of. This is still a hard task. I don't know if any model has gotten this to work, but I would love to see this work. It's a fairly straightforward single shot answer that I was expecting it to be. The last one, which I found somewhere on the internet, where people were asking the models to create a wall clock. This one I started by giving it code execution ability, so it could write the code to generate this rather than trying to build the whole thing using ASCII or other diagrams. It did generate good HTML, but the clock itself does not work. It's stuck at 12 noon. So as much as I do like that it used the HTML, I asked it specifically for a working 12-hour on clock. It's not working. Again, when I saw it on the internet, the clocks were even not well designed. But I think since it used HTML, it did a good job at designing the clock, but it did not do the complete job properly yet. Trying it out for its actual use case. So yeah, this is Gemini 3. By tomorrow it will be released. It will be called something different in here, probably Gemini 3. Give it a try. Let me know how it goes. And tell me the other prompts that you think that you try to check how the model is performing. I can try it out maybe the next time. Alright, awesome. Have a fun day, people. And let me know how Gemini 3 is treating you. See ya.